Good evening and welcome to part 5 of my deep dive down the Manson rabbit hole. Part 5 is keeping up with Kasabian. Okay, this details the events of July 1st, 1969 to July 25th, 1969. And this is you see that we'll try to fit in more stuff in a shorter frame now. If we slow things down a little um, as we approach the central event of family. Um, okay, so now one of the biggest events with the Manson family was the drug burn. Okay, the drug burn that happened on July 1st, 1969, and basically, most people don't realize, but it was Manson who probably instigated it himself. He was the one that decided that this should be done. A lot of people always said, "Oh, this is Tex Watson, who has been known to do drug burns," but it was probably collaboration of Tex Watson and Manson's idea. And at this time in LA, there was a serious marijuana shortage. Now, um, today, marijuana is talked about much more openly, and but back then, marijuana was, considered dope. It would, ruin your mind, you dope fiend, and what happened was there was a shortage, and Manson or Watson, or probably a combination of the two, concocted a scheme. And they knew this black drug dealer named Bernard Crow, or sometimes was referred to as Lots of Papa because he was pretty big. He wasn't that tall, maybe like 5'9", but he weighed close to 300 pounds. So there was lots of him, and therefore his name Lots of Papa. And so So Manson or Watson or the combination of them knew that there was this serious drug shortage, but uh, Watson tells Crow, Bernard Crow, Lots of Papa, will refer to him Lots of Papa going forward, that there's uh, a, uh, a big shipment of marijuana, and if he could float $2,400 to me, I could get it. So at first, Crow is, not too keen on the idea. He's been probably burned before. He knows of other dealers being burned, so he is very careful, and he decides to take Watson's girlfriend as collateral, basically, while him and Watson. Well, actually, it was Crow that supposedly. I'm sorry, Rosina Kroner. That was the girlfriend. Who, they all went together to this apartment in El Monte, California. And in El Monte, Watson was supposed to go and get the. He was given the $2,400. He's going to the apartment, pick up the drugs, and come back. Okay, so that's exactly what transpired on July 1st, 1969. They went up to the apartment, and on July 1st, and Watson leaves the car. He comes out, and so they're waiting, and they're waiting, and they're waiting, and there's no sign of Watson. And Rosina Crone is a little worried because, this guy, Lots Papa is not the nicest guy in the world. He's not bringing roses and wine. And it's about a half hour to 45 minutes. Bernard Crowe, Lots of Papa, as we'll call him from now, realizes something has went wrong. And what had happened was Watson didn't. There was no drugs in Monte in the apartment. He had went out the back door of the apartment building to a car with a guy named TJ the Terrible or TJ Wallerman, and his name will pop up again a short time from now. And they drove back to Spawn Ranch with $2,400. Okay. Now, so basically, at this point, Bernard Crow is very upset, okay, to say the least. And $2,400 in 1969 money was equivalent to about $22,000 or 23,000, 21,000, we'll say, just to be conservative in today's money. And so he drives back to Rosina's apartment with. He drives back, or one of his flunkies drives him back, and he calls Spawn Ranch, and he goes, "I want to speak to Charlie," and not too happily, by the way. And so the person who answered the phone, they don't say, but says, "Oh, Charlie, got to be Charlie Manson," but he's actually talking about Text Watson or Charlie Text Watson, because we said for the 2000s, we've changed Text Watson's nickname to Text Watson. Okay, now basically, Crow basically said, "I want my money back, or I'm going to come to the ranch." And yeah, obviously, he had some knowledge of the ranch. He knew about the shenanigans that went on. And he goes, "I want my money back, else I'm going to come to the ranch and I'm going to burn it down and I'm going to rape all the women." So he knew that Charlie was a guy that had a lot of women with her, and so Charlie said, "Listen, calm down. We can work this out. I'll get you your money back, whatever." And he comes over to the apartment of Rosina Kroner. Um, and he lies. I'll say I'll make good on the money. Um, so, so Manson says this is not going to be the easiest thing to do. He needs someone to go along with, and Tex Watson wasn't into it, and and Bruce Davis, another one of his high-ranking guys, wasn't into it. So he picks one T.J. Wallerman, T.J. the Terrible, who had seen time in Vietnam, and so he thought he'd be best for the job. Now, so they go to the apartment, and Wallerman has the gun, but the gun, and by the way, the gun is a 22 bunt line, the one that Ronald Reagan gave to Randy Starr, and the one that Randy Starr gave to Manson, and the one that would eventually end up shooting Jay Sebring and Stephen Parent and uh, Bernard, I'm sorry, Parent and Wojtek Frykowski. Okay, so so they go to the apartment, and Manson says, "Listen, I'm really sorry, but I gotta have the girl back. I don't know, I don't know what Watson did with the money. He's not around, etc." And so Manson puts the gun on the table, and he says, "Listen, Charlie, listen, lots of Papa, um, release the girl. You kill me, and we'll call it even." And he said, "No, I don't want to hurt you, Manson. You're not the one that took my money, even though probably Manson hatched the scheme." And um, so Manson does one of those things, as we'll discuss later. Where he picks up the gun. "Well, since you had the right to kill me and you didn't, now I have the right to kill you." Okay, and so Manson picks up the gun and he fires, but the gun doesn't go off. And he does it again. And now at this point, Lots of Papa is laughing. He's saying, "Ah, look at this toy ass gun." And then a third time, this time the gun did fire, and Lots of Papa was shot in the stomach, and he fell to the ground. And basically, Manson, kissed Watson's feet. I'm sorry. lots of Papa's feet, and with a gun in his hand, he got one of the buckskin shirts, one of the Dale Fimple, I guess, was wearing, and he was on his way. I don't know if they got the girl out. Now, lots of Papa, Bernard Crow, was severely wounded, and he survived though, and he was taken out of. He was taken from. He was in the hospital till July 17th, 1969. So it was a good 16 days stay at the hospital. So Manson didn't know what happened. He thought he had possibly killed lots of Papa as he left. Now, there was also stuff in the news. Manson was a big news guy, and that a Black Panther had been killed in Los Angeles, and Manson thought that was the Black Panther that was killed. So he thought Matsapapa was a Black Panther, and Matsapapa wasn't a Black Panther. So this little mix-up what is a very, very important event, and it led to a lot of issues. Um, so Manson. So at this point, Manson was very paranoid because of what lots of Papa had said before that he was going to come, he was going to kill everyone at the ranch, and he's going to rape all the women. Okay, and he basically set up all night patrols. He'd have always had the ranch armed, people on the big hills, that surrounded the ranch, and he thought, and this fueled his also his madness that there would be a race war, but there was a race war. Now, so you had these all night patrols. Um, so on July 4th, 1969, I believe America's 193rd birthday, um, Linda Kasabian, and we call this episode Kasabian, Keeping Up with Kasabian, arrives at the ranch. Now, Kasabian uh, was born in New Hampshire, and she had come out. She was a commune girl. She was a hippie through and through. She liked the hippie lifestyle. She liked living in communes. She already had been married once, and now she was married again, but the marriage wasn't going so well. At 20 years old or so, she was married twice. So, on her second marriage to a fellow named Bob Kasabian. By the way, she was an Armenian. Kasabian, of course, an Armenian name. Her husband was. She was a French from Vermont. I guess Druin was her maiden name. Um, Now, one thing about Kasabian to this day, she's one of the most controversial figures in the Manson community. All around hated and despised uh, because she probably turned witness against Manson. And so she's a very controversial figure. Um, so the backstory of Kasabian is kind of interesting. She was in New Hampshire, said Vermont, but same thing. So she went out to California to try to reconcile with her husband, Bob. And there she met a fellow named Charles Melton, a lot of Charlies, Watson, Manson, Melton, a lot of Charlies. And so the story was that Melton, this is why you never tell people about your financial situation, had just inherited $23,000. In today's money, that's probably about $210,000. And he had planned to get a boat, I don't know, sailboat or yacht or whatever, and to sail around South America, you know. And it sounds pretty cool. When you're young, I always thought about this. When you're young, there's a time to do risky things because your health isn't as much of a risk. I mean, if you're sick and you need the hospital, It's much rarer when you're young and you have to pay all these medical bills. But when you get older, of course, that is the situation. So he had this money, and so she met this woman there. A friend of Milton was this woman named Gypsy or Catherine Scher, one of the Manson family members, and she um, she was talking a lot to Linda, and she found out about the issues that she was having with her husband Bob, and um, so one thing that upset her is that Charlie Melton and Bob Kasabian decided not to take her on a trip. They were going to go on to South America. Okay, now that upset her. Now, um, so so she's having these problems with her husband, and Captain Shea goes, "Now listen, I live on this commune, and we have this really groovy guy named Charlie, and I think you would like it there. And why don't you come? You'll meet everybody, and maybe you'll stay." At this point, Linda had a infant named Tanya. She said, "Okay, what I got to lose? Things aren't going out well anyway in life." And so Kasabian gets to Spawn Ranch, and she immediately falls for. She meets a few of the people, and she immediately falls for a guy named Tex Watson. Okay, or as we call him in the 2000s, Tex Watson. So Tex Watson and have amazing sex with Linda, and they develop a strong bond. And she tells about Charles Melton's inheritance and criminal mind of of Tex Watson's already going. And Tex Watson says, "Well, if you really think about it, according to Charlie, what he has is ours, right? And what we have is his. So we need to get some of that money." So one day, pretty, maybe like 3 or 4 days later, Mary Bruner, Linda, and Gypsy, and Tanya, the infant, go to the beach near Topanga Canyon. Okay, and they run into Bob Kasabian and Charles Melton, and you know Charles Melton and Bob Kasabian let it on that they have to go to downtown LA to get a passport. Okay, I guess when you go around the world to go into other people's waters, whatever, you need a passport. I guess I don't know. Okay, so what they do is remembering that conversation she had with Tex Watson. They decide to go back to the trailer where Mr. Mellon lived, and Gypsy, Catherine Shear, and her decide that she's going to take some of that money. Okay, and so she goes in, she finds that she takes $5,000. Okay, I guess the rest of the 23,000 was in the bank. um, um, so she gets the $5,000, and as we'll see what that money was used for, one of the theories we'll talk about later on when we talk about the drug burn hypothesis to the Tate murders. Okay, so. Um, and so she got the $5,000, and she knew this would be a problem. So stealing $5,000 from Charles Melton, and eventually they'd confront her. So Melton, sure enough, a couple of days later, Melton and Bob Kasabian come to the ranch, and they go, "Where's Linda?" And Linda, at this point, knowing that they would be coming, was hidden. And Manson says, "Why don't you guys talk to me?" So so here's this crazy looking hippie they're talking to, and they said, "Where, she stole $5,000 from us, and we want it back." And Manson does his old trick, and he goes, "Well, you can't get the money back because everything that's yours is ours." Okay? And I said, "What?" That's right. Community. You just give into the community. Now, if you can't accept that, I guess you're gonna have to kill me. So Anson takes out a knife and he plays it on the table, or gives it to him, and he says, "Listen, you have to kill me." One of these days, I would backfire him, giving him the knife and saying, "Kill me." Figured there would be someone that would take him up on the offer, but no one ever did. I guess he lucked out. Um, so now we don't want to kill you. We just want our money back. Well, since I have given you the right to kill me and you decided not to, I have the right to kill you. So he picks up the knife, and those two guys were out, out of there quicker than, well, I don't know an analogy for that, but they were out of there quickly. This guy is freaking crazy. Um, Now, at the same time, this is around the early July of Bryn Lukaszewski, who was at the Rosina Crow apartment, calls Dennis Wilson and says, "Listen, I saw Manson shoot a black drug dealer." Now, interestingly enough, uh, Mike Love, I'm sorry, tells a story of. Uh, Dennis Wilson saying that he saw Manson shoot a black drug dealer with a M16. I think that it was just him. He was all drugged up, and I think that was him sort of mixing up stories and talking about uh, the shooting of Lhasa Papa. So that's my theory on that. So you didn't actually see a black person stealing an M16. Now, shot with an M16. Um, so, um, so usually some issues, of course, plague everyone. They plague Charlie. Transcontinental Development. They wanted to buy the land from George Spahn. They were a German. They wanted to make it a German American resort. And but before they buy it, they wanted to drive the hippies off. These dirty hippies. Okay. So Manson, so the early July started lecturing about getting into fear, creepy crawls. Um, It showed how to open doors with credit cards or cards, how to cut screens with knives, and he told some of the women to start stealing jewelry and furs. At first, the creepy crawl was just not to steal, but now he added now you could steal. um, um, okay, so. Um, So now he's also adding to his arsenal of equipment for the eventual move to the desert. He has Bruce Davis, Mary Bruner, and Bobby Beausoleil, and others buy needed helter skelter equipment, helter skelter equipment. So when they move out to the desert, they'll be able to survive. He also hires a karate guy named Karate Dave to give karate lessons to family members. Um, Now, Manson's really going nuts. He's desperate for money, and there's an old family acquaintance that, there's a 32-year-old guy named Gary Hinman, and he had a house in Topanga Canyon, and he was well liked by especially the women of the family. He's a very nice guy. He was very sweet. He would let some of the family or any hippies stay over a night or two when they needed a place to stay, and um, so what Manson decided that for some reason that Hinman was rich, which he wasn't. Just getting by. He was a 32-year-old sociology. He was going for a sociology PhD at UCLA. Um, and he was also a music teacher and a drug dealer. And he used to make his own mescaline. And for some reason, Manson thought he wanted to make, at this point, Manson was looking for rich people to join the family because once you get in the family, you have to give all your assets to the family. Okay. Um, so Manson wanted Hinman and all his things for the family. Um, and when Hinman would say, "No, Charlie, I don't want to join," and Charlie said, "I won't be responsible for your bad karma, man." Okay. um, so what happens on July 24th is Manson calls Elijah Bailey and a guy named Bill Vance, and he says, "I want you to kill Gary Hinman." And they say, "Okay, Manson." And they decide to take off for Texas. This guy's fucking crazy. Okay. So Manson's getting really, crazy at this point. And he starts, threatening people, beating up women. Catherine Share relates story how she was beat up. Diane Lake, he wrote books on the matter. And so Manson goes to Bobby Beausoleil, musician, Cupid, the cute guy. He goes, Manson asked him if he wants to leave the ranch. And Bobby said, "Well, I thought about it." Manson said, how about if I slit your throat? Okay, so I got good stuff. Wow, I'm perfect again. 27, 28 minutes. So, okay, so we'll stop at that point, July 26th. So, as you can see, it's summary. Manson is going a little wacky. Threats, violence, and, trying to force people to join the family. And at this point, he's coming very unhinged. So next time in part six, we'll discuss the next event, the first one that really causes so many issues: the murder of Gary Hinman and the prelude to the Tate LaBianca murders. Well, today is October. It's October. What is it? October 2nd, I think. Right? October 3rd, actually. I don't know. Okay. So I'd like to thank everyone, and I'll be out by the weekend with the next podcast, Manson, a deep dive. Thank you, and have a great day.